Hi, this is Sridhar from wpdevdesign.com. In this screencast, I want to show you how we can set up a filterable portfolio in Oxygen, like the one that you are currently looking at. So I'm currently on my portfolio custom post types archive page, and this is going to show all the entries of this particular CPT here. And above the list of posts, we're going to show the filters, and these are going to be dynamically generated based on the taxonomy terms that the entries have. So clicking on a term like cars will basically filter the results like how you would expect, and you can check out the others as well. All right, let's get started. So I have written a tutorial, and this is not published yet. So I just want to use this as a reference while I go about implementing this tutorial. Alright, so the first thing that you got to do is to install this plugin. It's a simple plugin that I have put together that will help you to load assets like JavaScript, CSS, and PHP wherever you want, as opposed to using a plugin that would not give you control on where these files are loaded. So you can just go to this post and then click on this, and you will be taken to the GitHub link, where you can just click on this button to download a zip file, and then you would install, upload, and activate this the usual way. Okay, so once that's done, you have to connect to the server using an FTP client, and then you have to upload these two files to assets.js directory of the plugin. So I'm going to show you. So I'm in WP content plugins. Inside that is my custom functionality. Inside that is assets. You need to go inside JS, and these two files, Isotope and images loaded. So these are the files that I have already uploaded to my server. And then you need to create a file called isotope-init.js having this code. You can click on this button to copy this entire code and then put it in a text file and save it as isotope-init.js, and then you have to upload it to the same location. Okay, yeah. So what we are essentially doing in this step is that we are uploading Isotope. So Isotope is a JavaScript library that we can use to set up filtering and sorting of various elements inside a parent container. One of the built-in functionalities of Isotope is the filtering, and you can see how it works here, and this is the same thing that we're using there. Now, one thing that you should remember is that this is not free. I mean, even though it's on GitHub, and even though you can actually download this JavaScript plugin, if you use this on a client side, you got to buy a license. So that's something that you need to remember. You can just go to this page and have a read as to what this thing is about. So the one that I'm talking about is this commercial license, and I paid $25 because I use Isotope in one of my other themes. All right, anyway, let's move on. So in this JavaScript file, what we are doing is we are essentially initializing or invoking this particular Isotope on a element that has the class of oxyposts. So if you use a ezpost element in Oxygen, oxy-post is its default class. So this is like the parent container that contains each individual post. So we are calling isotope on this element on this div, and we are specifying that each individual item is the each individual post or entry. Okay, and you can take a look at the documentation of Isotope to see what these other parameters are and what they do. And this particular piece of code is essentially the filter rows. So by filter rows, this is what I mean, the one that shows all business, cars, creative, etc. So this piece of code will essentially add a click handler. That means what should happen when any of these buttons is clicked. So that code is specified here. So essentially what we are doing is we have defined our grid. The grid is nothing but this entire post grid, and to that we are basically passing the filter value as the value of data filter attribute. So if you take a look at the HTML, you can see that we have there is a data filter custom attribute that has been added to each of these buttons, and the value of that attribute is the portfolio category to which it's basically the portfolio category that are all present in the site that have at least one term. So here in this line, what we are doing is we are essentially plugging the value of this data filter, and we are passing that as an input to the grid. The grid is what is defined here. And then we have a bit of JavaScript code that is essentially handle the way that the active class is removed and applied. So when I click on medical, this particular button gets the active class. When I click on business, this button gets the active class. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So I have already done this on my site. So let's go to the third step, and that is inside the plugins PHP file, and inside this function we got to add this code. What this code is doing is that it is loading all these files, this JavaScript file, this JavaScript file, and this JavaScript file in the footer. So the true, the last parameter of WP unqueue script, it indicates that we are asking WordPress to load these asset or load this file in the footer of the website before the closing body element. I'm sorry, before the closing body tag. And we are also restricting that these files be loaded only on a page that is the portfolio CPT archive page. Okay, so I need to do this step. I haven't done this yet in my site. So I'm going to go to the plugins PHP file, and I'm just going to change the command to mention that I'm also loading Isotope besides slideout that I've used in a different tutorial. So the code that I need to add is this. And this could be indented. Okay, that's better. So after you put in this code, just upload it back to the server. And then next step is to install and activate this free plugin called Portfolio Post Type. I have already done that. What that does is that it basically adds a new portfolio custom post type to your WordPress, and also it sets up two associated taxonomies, custom taxonomies. The first thing is this portfolio underscore category. The other is portfolio underscore tag. We are just going to use the portfolio categories, and I have already created a few sample categories, and I have also added some sample portfolio items with associated thumbnails or featured images. Okay, so that's done. Step 4 is done. Step 5, create a template name so and so and oxygen. Okay, so let's do this. I need to go to oxygen templates and add a new template, and I'm going to call this filterable portfolio, publish. Okay, and I would like to inherit whatever is there in my main template, and this main template essentially contains the site header, inner content element, and below that the footer. And where does this template apply? This should apply on my custom post type of portfolio. Alright, so this should basically apply on my portfolio custom post type archive page. Okay, and update. And let's edit this with oxygen. Alright, so just give me a sec while I get my charger. So I'm going to click on add new section, and inside this I'm going to add inner content, and I'm going to move the inner content to inside the section. Let's take a look at the structure. So I've got my section, and inside that I've got my inner content. But this is not what I want. What I would like to have is to have the entries appear in a grid. So I'm sorry, so I don't need this inner content. What I need is to add the easy posts. Okay, it's right here under helpers. It's under dynamic easy posts. So I'm going to click on that. So by default, this basically shows the grid in a 3-column with all the entities that I don't need, like the author, a link to comments, read more, content, etc. So let's first get rid of these things to show just the image and the linked title. So I'm going to go to templates and edit the template PHP, and I'm going to remove the portion at the bottom that shows the meta, the content or the excerpt in this case, and the permalink, and read more. So if I remove that and apply, so this is better. I'll just collapse this for now. Okay, and by default this is going to show the pagination or pagination, whatever you call it, and this is controlled by the setting in your WordPress at settings and reading screen. But for filtering with Isotope, you would need to have all the entries shown on a single page. So there are 2 ways of doing this. I'm just going to show you the easy way in this. The hard way, well, it's not really hard, is by basically using the pre_get_posts filter in WordPress to change the parameter of the default query to show all the posts. I think we just use -1 as the value of for a parameter that I think it's called num_posts. But anyway, we'll just do this the easy way. So let's go back to easy posts, go to query, and instead of the default, I'm going to set custom. And for the post type, I want the portfolio entries. So I'm going to set the portfolio as the name of the post type. And for the count, I would like to show all the entries. So once you do that, you click on apply query params, and you can see in the right side output that it is now fetching all the entries. Okay, so the next thing that we got to do is go to advanced, and well, let's just go to primary and go to templates and go to templatephp. Okay, so each of these individual entries is going to have oxy-post as the class. To this, we need to also add all the classes that each of this entry is associated with. When I say each class, I'm referring to the portfolio categories. So the way that we do is by adding a custom function. Looks like I didn't add that in there. I got to put that in here. Okay, I'm going to update this tutorial, but I'll just get that code. So we need to add this code in the plugin.php at the end, like that. So this is basically defining a custom function that is going to take a taxonomy term as the input, and it is going to fetch all the terms of that taxonomy, and for each of those terms it is going to basically get the slug and display the slug of this term separated by a space. So essentially it is going to output space separated terms of the specified taxonomy. In this case, that is portfolio underscore category. So we need to call this function and pass in the name of the taxonomy. So the way that we do is here, come here and say php echo, and to this function we need to pass in the name of the custom taxonomy. Alright, so once we do this, what's going to happen in the output in the front end is that each entry will have the space separated terms that that entry belongs to. Okay, so once you do that, you hit on apply code, and there is a syntax error. There should not be a space here. Let's remove that. Oh, I forgot to close the PHP tag. Okay, we'll apply the code again. Alright, that's better. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do is to add the filter buttons row. So we can do that by going to add, and then we're going to add a custom a code block. That should be here, and let's move this above the easy posts. Okay, and by default it's going to show hello world, so you can just remove that and add a or invoke or call a function. But before that, we need to add that function to the plugins PHP. So we need to add, that's already done. Yeah, this is the function. So we're going to copy that and put it in there. So this is a function that will display the buttons with the specified taxonomy terms as the values of that custom attribute. Well, what does that mean? I'll show you later. For now, we'll just call this like that. Okay, I'm gonna hit apply, and you can see that it is dynamically fetching all the portfolio categories and displaying them as buttons. So I'm gonna hit save. I'm not sure what this problem is. I've been getting this a few times. All right, so let's move on. The next thing you go to do is to style these buttons. You could do this in two ways. The first is to use the selector detector feature in Oxygen. You got to go to Oxygen's settings, enable it, and then you got to come back here. I actually don't have that feature enabled right now, so I'm just gonna show you the other way. Since I'm comfortable with custom CSS, what you could do is you select the code block, and in the CSS you add that CSS. Okay, so that will basically style these buttons. I'm gonna collapse it. Okay, and I would like to add some margin so the filter rows are flush with the posts grid. So let me just go to size and space. At the top and bottom, I don't need, let's say at the sides I need 15, and on the right 15, and at the bottom let's say some 20 to give a little more space if you want. Okay, so let's save this, and I don't think it worked. Well, we'll just go and see how it works, how it looks. Nope, it did not work. To get rid of this Ajax problem and make sure that this works, you need to set the template priority. Set this to 10. The default is 0, but set this to 10, and that will basically override the other templates that might be causing the problem. So just set it to 10 and update. And let's go to the front end. And we'll go to the portfolio page, and that should show the filter row and the grid, and clicking on this should filter the results by that category. Okay, that's all. Hope you found this helpful. Bye for now.